Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm the Career Change Guy, Brian from Career Advice UK, and it's time for another Careers Clinic live stream. Today, I will be talking about, as I take your questions, about AI's impact on your job and what does AI mean for you going forward. And so, hey, hey everyone. Hey Lesbian Tart, Chloe, and Very Sigrid. Good to see everyone. So sit back. We got an hour ahead of us, and as always, I will take your questions as you ask. Okay, so do you have a plan? Have you started user 76544? Um, Getting yourself promoted, getting yourself out there so so you can achieve your goal of being a rapper. Interesting. Very interesting. So what are you learning? Um, so yes. So talking about AI. So one of the things that I do talk a lot about, and it's one of the questions I do get a lot in um, when I do these live streams, is the question about, hey Kay, how are you? It's the question, hey Nat's Lego girl, good to see you. Hey, so one of the questions I do get during my live streams is about AI and AI's impact on their job. Hey, Justice Cuts and Harley, good to see you both. Thank you for joining. So one of the questions I do get is, you know, really, hey May Lee and Sally and Chris, good to see you. Um, it's how does AI impact you? Hey, Phil and G Girl and Oasis, good. Okay, there is. Hey, Kate, no, there is. Have you looked at the government website? Um, because there is the government, UK government does have a, hey Sally, a website where you can look for apprenticeships and apply to apprenticeships. Because there is one, and I usually put it up, but TikTok tends to get um, a little bit funny when you start to share links. So you've been applying, so you have. So I think a lot of it you have to do, kind of have to realize a little bit. Oops, camera keeps on sliding here. Um, that with apprenticeships, they are very competitive. Apprenticeships are very competitive, and and I think sometimes apprenticeships can be more competitive. You only got one. Um, it is hard. So if you just have to, yes, you do have to apply. Um, Apprenticeships can be very competitive. From my own experience, they can be very competitive. Um, and that in part is because there's less of them. The government has just come out and said that they'll fund 50,000 apprenticeship spots for small businesses for those under 25. So there is, for small businesses, what that means is that they can offer apprenticeships at no cost to them. Before they had to pay a small part. Now it is. So what it may mean for you is two things. One, you need to maybe be a bit more strategic. Make sure that if you have any GCSEs, A levels, that you're applying for apprenticeships that align with those. Hey, Jack and FR and Nation and more. It's good to see you all. So, take a look at that. You have a BTech. Okay, good. So, have you applied to apprenticeships that kind of align with your BTech? Because it's going to be because it is in a... Okay, so have you tried to apply for apprenticeships in the area in the BTech that you did? Because most likely, okay, so if you have some experience in IT, okay, hey, Mark Jacobs, good to see you. Have you tried, if you have experience through the courses, so if you gained some course experience, but you haven't really got job experience, then what it may mean is they see that you have the experience. So there's a couple things to try. Have you tried, what type of CV format are you using? Are you using a functional or a chronological type of CV format? Because I think with you, it's because it is a very kind of competitive job market right now. And it is and employers are very kind of selective. Okay. That may be part of the problem is your CV and inexperience. So it's what I would say it is for you to do is go to, you can direct message me on TikTok here, or there is, you can contact me through my website, Leap Forward Careers. If you go to Leap Forward Careers, there is contact form. You can also contact me here on TikTok, because I think what the issue is, I think there's a couple of issues, and it's going to be really hard to kind of work it through during this live stream. And it's a bit easier to do it a bit offline, because I think there's a couple of issues. I think part of it may be the CV, the information you're putting in. And I think it's easier to do it offline than it is trying to do it online here. So if you want, just drop me a message and we can pick it up. Because I think there is a solution. It's just trying to work out what it is. Hey, Mercy, good to see you. Thank you for joining. So yes, if you're just joining, you do like the feed, please like, please share, no problem. Please share and please follow. So the way I work it today is. I do get, hey, Big Drax, good to see you. What I do with the lives is this. It's when you do come in, I do get guest requests. So if you want a guest spot, what I will typically do, because there's so much demand, and the focus of the live stream is getting people answers to their questions. And so I try to do it is try to take as many questions as possible. And so for me to do that is I do limit the guest spots. And what I will typically do is limit the guest spots to the point where once I get 1,500 diamonds, points, whatever you want to call them, I'll do a 5-minute guest spot and I will randomly pick someone. And I've done this in the past when I've hit 1,500. Typically, it will be someone who wants to participate, and it's usually somebody who hasn't contributed a lot or hasn't contributed any at all. And this is because it needs to be fair, and everyone has to have basically a equal opportunity to do it. So it's not pay to play. So I don't take, if you do get 1,500, doesn't mean you'll get the guest spot. Because it does need to be fair to all viewers. Hey, Emma, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. And so that's the way it works. Just to let you know, too, I do own and run Leap Forward Careers, career advice and career support organization. I have just published 2 books. the UK Job Seekers Playbook 2026 and Career Change UK, both available from the site. Also, too, I've published a couple of guides for you at no cost. It is a free disability guide for your taking. Just download it, no cost, no codes or anything. Hey, Rabin. Also, too, salary negotiating guide. There's also a salary negotiating guide, and probably today or tomorrow, I will also publish a guide on starting your own business. Hey, user 6901, how are you? Yeah, that's fine. If you want to go to sleep, that's fine, 6901. So, yeah, so there is. So, check that out. If you do have any kind of, like I say, career-related questions after my live stream, always you can direct message me here, or, always visit Leap Forward Careers, and there's contact information there. So as I was saying, we're talking today about AI and AI replacing jobs. So again, the way I do it is I give you some information. If you have some questions, always feel free to drop it down below. And I will pick it up on a first come, first served basis. And like I said, if you do want to come on as a guest, I do wait until I hit 1,500 because, like I said, I want to take questions from everyone so that it's a bit fair. So if we want to get to that point, more than happy to pick. And it is, like I said, it's a situation where it's a random pick. So, talking about AI. And the one thing about AI is this: what we need to do, and it's one of the questions that comes up a lot during my live streams, is, is AI going to replace my jobs? And one of the things that a lot of times I will get is questions about like finance and people like in accounting, finance, and those types of roles. And the reality is this, if any tips or points for cybersecurity, it's I think it's hey Vedi, it's a good question. I think with cybersecurity, I think it is a growing field for you. It is, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities again with AI and the advent of quantum computers. The marketplace will really change, so it's always important to keep up and keep up to date. I think when if you do get an opportunity during your course of studies to do a placement or an internship, I would say take it. Again, if you do get a chance to get a job with an IT firm where you can maybe work in cybersecurity or work on the help desk, service desk, whatever they call it, depending on the types of calls they take, I would encourage you to take it. And I would say, do what you can to maximize your experiences and build up your CV. If you can attend seminars or attend events, again, related to cybersecurity, do that because it will definitely help you. Likewise, if you're looking at like applying for cybersecurity courses for university, I think it is pretty good selection. I think if you're looking, again, Russell Groups are always, if you're in the UK, the best ones to look for that will help you get placed. So yes, so getting back to kind of the topic of not cybersecurity, AI. It's what I will always say to people is, talking about AI, especially. Hey, JR, good to see you. Um, hey, Jasmine and Blake. Um, when you're talking about AI, hey, thank you for the likes. Very much appreciated. Hey, Sky. And yeah, good to see you all. So when we're talking about AI and the concerns people have, especially like, hey, thank you, Fatty, for the follow. Um, when people start to talk about AI and start to worry about it, especially if you're like into finance accounting areas, what I always will say is going back to, you know, square one, and it is when you look at, hey, Joseph, when you look at when computers started to enter the workplace, we're talking about 30 years ago when it really started to become very kind of commonplace. Hey, Liam, and we started to see that kind of transition from, started to see that kind of transition from like typewriters and stuff into to computers and things becoming a bit of automated. There was, hey, Liam, thank you for the follow. A lot of apocalyptic, hey, Jerry, good to see you. Very much these apocalyptic prophecies of massive job losses, business shutting down, and very kind of doom and gloom that computers are taking over to kind of really feel that. What started to become really evident was, hey, Wheelo, this kind of fear, kind of justified fear to a certain extent, of the 2000 bug, meaning that prior to the year 2000, the year was written in a two-digit format, such as 76 would be 76, 90 would be 90, and not a full 20, it's not the full 4-year format of like 2026. And so that meant that at 1900, when it would hit 2000, it would reset back to 1900, 00. So there had to be a quick, really bug fix, or everything would stop. So that kind of fueled it. And so it just kind of started to, fuel the fears, that computers are going to take over, we'll lose jobs, and everything. And so what it meant then is people really got into a panic. And so people would get into a panic about computers. So after computers got into the workplace and become kind of common, what we did find was there was more efficiency, meaning that things become more efficient. The fear and doom and gloom that, the millions of job losses didn't happen. The fear that everything would be done online, kind of like brick and mortar shops, city center, kind of downtown areas and stuff, would just evaporate because everything would be done online, and we would ultimately, lose contacts with people, and also, this very kind of, we would become all isolated because we're now relying on computers. Computers are doing everything. There's no need for jobs or anything. So, long story short, it never came to fruition. And what we're seeing right now with AI, it's the same thing, but kind of a different story. Instead of computers, it's AI. And so, like, especially in the areas of finance, people were afraid that once spreadsheets came out, we had the advent of accounting software. All of a sudden, all the accounting finance jobs would just dry up because now it could be ran by computers. And the reality is, it didn't happen. It never happened. It never ever happened. So I think with AI, I think there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of doom, but ultimately, um, you know, ultimately, it hasn't happened, and I don't think it will happen. I think again with finance, you know, I don't think it will make any changes when we take a look at, for example, um, what happened with computers is that things changed. People, there was a lot of debate, and people we discovered that you know people do like people contact, people like to see things, people like to be able to have that kind of experience. So not everything went online. Not everybody wants to shop online. People didn't want to. So we did see a evolution of um so what we would see is um what we see is this kind of evolution because it is, as it developed, there are limitations, preferences people develop, and we never saw like the mass job losses with computers, which I don't think we'll see with AI, because I think we will be in 1 year, and as AI evolves, I think we will start to see AI, um, you know, hitting some types of limitations, um, where people will accept or use, like computers, and I think it will evolve over that. I think there's a lot, at least at this stage, a lot of unnecessary doom, gloom, apocalyptic type of messaging regarding it. Um, regarding oh shoot, regarding AI, and I don't think it will materialize. I think it will, because I still think we're still in the very infancy of AI, and I think with AI, there's still a lot of work you have to do with it to prompt it. You still have to check and test the output to make sure it is what is expected. It can save you, from my experience, several hours of work, but you still have to put the time in, invest in the time. Hey, Holly and X and Jupiter, good to see you all. Um, you still have to put in the time, the effort, into AI to get the output. And I think that the savings are there, but it's not really all, how should I say, it's not being realized as we would expect. And I think with AI, I think we will just see is that some jobs may change, get reformatted like computers, and new jobs created like we saw when computers came in. And I think it is going to be like that. I don't think it's going to be this mass job kill off, that a lot of people are saying, because it sounds very much like when computers made it into the workplace in the 90s. So, um, so yeah. So if you're just joining and you like the feed, please please share, please follow. If you have questions, you know, put it down below as they relate to careers. I do pick up kind of the career related questions. Anything that's not really career related, I tend not to pick up. Um, and so it is, so if you have a career related question, I pick up anything on like CVs, cover letters, job interviews, starting a small business, some UCAS questions, university course. Again, talk about AI and impacts on jobs. Are jobs going to be at risk with AI? Um, I do talk about, again, talking about, hey, Taylor, good to see you. And also talk about AI, um, and again, disability as it relates to the workplace. Again, like I say, when it comes to disability, I do have a free disability guide for you to download. Um, so, again, any questions, feel free to put it down. Hey, Ben, good to see you, and Jupiter. So, yes. If you do have a question, please put it down below. Now, I don't usually ask for gifts. If you do send, if you want to send gifts, that's your choice. But it does help me. Gifts do help me to know exactly what's resonating with people. Helps me to kind of plan conversation, and also helps me to plan my content. So if you do have a question on CVs, like structure, what should you put on it? Should you send out a generic, templated CV? What's the difference between a functional and chronological CV? When do you use them? Or you've been sending out literally hundreds of CVs and getting no replies, or talking about the job market and how do you apply for jobs? What are employers beginning to look for when it comes to jobs? What are employers wanting? What do you put onto your CV so that you get picked up? What do you put into your LinkedIn profile, or how do you use LinkedIn? Using agencies, should you use an agency? STHE Scott. Should you use an agency? How do you work with agencies? Talk about websites, job boards, and anything that is of interest that's career related. I do pick up. Hey, Matt, good to see you, and Aman, good to see you too, and thank you for stopping by. So if you have a question, please put it down below, and I will, pick it up from you and answer your questions. Hey. So if you have a question, feel free to put it down below. And I will pick it up. If you have anything, in regards to redundancy, making career change is a big one, because I know about a third of kind of mid-career professionals every year look at doing career changes, and with it being 5.2% unemployment. Good question, Ben. Thank you for that good question. The one thing I would always say is, what I would say is this: take a look at your CV format first. What type of CV are you using? Are you using like a chronological or a functional CV? If you don't have a lot of skills, then what you want to start to look at is one of doing a couple things to improve your CV. One would be using a functional CV, because a functional CV highlight skills over job experience, so it's easier to bury it and not to call attention to your lack of job experience. Also, too, at 19, I would suggest to you doing some volunteering, get some volunteer experience, and also, too, if you can, if you're not in school, I would say either look at applying to university, or applying to a college, and take under a thank you, Nath. Thank you for the follow. Start to look at those options is to take a look at going back to school, because school will help you. If you don't want to do the school, hey, thank you, no problems. The other option for you would be to start to look at applying for apprenticeships. And the government website, there's a government website, a Dynamic Force government website, where you can start to look at, they have a site, okay, so yeah, retail is going to be hard, because of the because when retail is very much economically sensitive. And so when you start to get high employment, when you start to get high employment, high rising inflation, retail tends to be one of these areas that really takes the brunt of it. And so I would say, if you're going to start looking for and applying for retail jobs for the summer, I would say, start applying now. But also, as you do apply, understand that it is going to be difficult, because retail has been really hurt, I believe, by the rise in National Insurance and Employment Rights Act legislation. And so that means, again, in a very difficult time right now, while a lot of people are out of work, the government policies have also kind of, I believe, have choked off a lot of the retail jobs. So you may wind up struggling finding something retail-wise. I would say to you, if you're looking kind of the retail kind of customer service, and maybe start to look at, I would say, as part of your reach, because it is very similar types of skills, but slightly different. Look at call centers, because they use similar skills, kind of the same type of customer service. And I think if you do it that way, I think, it may be a bit of a better option. If you're uni, and what I would also say too is look at agencies, and look at agencies, because agencies are good for kind of like temporary jobs, short term. And it may be, something you haven't considered, but look at kind of like applying to agencies. And I think with agencies, they offer short term, the pay tends to be slightly better than what you would get if you're on permanent. And they tend to be, more fixed term. And so it may work around a better schedule for you, being university wise. And also too, depending on what your major is at university, look at maybe applying to one of the companies. Okay, so you're not looking. Okay, that's fine, Nath. I think for you, there is, again, TikTok tends to be not always the greatest. No problem, Ben. Oh, well, thank you for the roses, Ben. That's very nice. Very much appreciated. What I would say to you, if you didn't complete apprenticeship, I don't think there is a link between not completing it and not finding a job. I think what it sounds like to me It's one of okay, so you may be, if you're doing gas engineering and you're looking to do the plumbing side of things, it may be right now that it is a difficult because you don't really have the skills. Um, I think that's probably the way to go. To go look for a trainee, plumber's mate role, because I think with it, with the kind of the current marketplace right now, employers are very selective. And so where you maybe be able to meet, let's say, when unemployment was less, where you could maybe meet, let's say, yeah, I know the feeling driving, it's especially with gas prices, and even if you have an EV charge, the cost it charges extremely. 1 second, Fernie, I will get back to you. Oh yes, definitely, Caleb. UK carpentry is a great career. They're expecting, from what I'm reading, a big, huge, massive rise in trade professions, especially with building and stuff. So yes, that is a very um, good one. So what I'm trying to say is, it's with you, Nath. Is that employers are being really selective. So what were maybe when employment was less, you could maybe match the role 70-80%, and you can interview and maybe even get it. Now, with the competition out there for jobs now, with I believe it's about 2.3 applicants for every job that's available, it means employers can be selective, and so they're looking for the right person. So if you've done gas engineering and now looking for plumbing, chances are the reason why you're getting rejected is because you don't match the role as much. The best thing to do would be, again, as you suggest, try to find a job as a plumber's mate if that's what if that's the area you want to move into. I think that would probably be the best option. Yeah, and I think you are, exactly. I think because you didn't finish it, you are competing with it. If you have, it may be, if you have a lot of experience with, plumbing and pipe fitting, it is something that may be transferable. It may be at that point, you may want to look at, hey, Bailey, Spring Roll, and Too High Edits. Good to see you all. So what you want to do is start to look at maybe addressing and looking at a different CV format. The best that I would probably, the CV format I would recommend for you is a functional CV where you can highlight your skills. So if you have a lot of experience pipe fitting and fitting pipes, it may shine more on a functional CV because you're highlighting your skills versus your experience. Hey, thank you, Too High, for the follow. Now, coming back to you, Fernie, thank you for waiting. At 17, I would encourage you to start to look at, if you haven't already, looking at either going to university, college, or looking for an apprenticeship training program, because that's going to be the best options for you. If you're not, there is if you're looking for jobs, then what I would say is at 17 would really depend. If you do have, let's say, any A levels, well, that's good with your skills. So you probably, where are your skills? Are they at the top or are they towards the end? That's good. That's a good place to put it. Um, now, hey, no, I, uh, yeah, I've no CV again with by Universal Credit. Um, I think some, and this is strictly my opinion. I think a lot of times with Universal Credit, DWP, while they're very helpful and very nice people, I think sometimes they try to be jack of all trades. Um, and oh, that's good. That's where you need to have it. Um, so I think they tend to be a jack of all trades, a Jupiter and Jessica and Nano. Good to see you. Um, I think they do. I do offer a CV check service. I do offer, I can do it and do a quick turnaround for you. Yeah, it is. You need to always, even though you have a CV template, Nate, you also need to make sure you align it with the job by drawing on your experiences and not just send off something generic. Um, I would say for you, I do offer a CV checking service, relatively inexpensive, and I can usually do it. It is if you. There's two ways you can do it. If you message me afterwards, because I don't pick up direct messages during my live streams because I'm not a good multitasker, so I can't do both at once. So just direct message me. I will um respond back fairly quickly with the information and email, contact, and price. Usually, what I will typically charge for a CV check, just a CV check with a few comments, is $9.99, and I'll send you the information on how to pay and all. If I think there's a couple. If you're looking for trades, CV Library is one that may be a good one to use. But they tend to be a lot of agencies, but they do tend to be kind of trade related, sales related. Oh, good. The other, if you're looking, sometimes if you do take a look at Deco and Blue Arrow are also two. I would say take a look at. Yeah, they do. Um, find a job. I always say, if you're looking there, I would say take a look at CV Library's good. Let me just I'll put them down. CV Library. Um, Let me just double check a deco because, yeah. So these are. So Blue Arrow are two. Also, I wouldn't say so much. Some of the other sites I do find what really happens with them is what I do find with them is with the different sites is they tend to be a lot of kind of, I hate to use the term, but I wouldn't say fake jobs. I think jobs that have expired, kind of, they've been kind of rehashed. And so I don't, what I would say is also to the other thing, what I will say is, I'll just put this, it's look at, start searching for sites, websites. Um, hey, Jessica and Offline, good to see you. Start to search by the organization, the business name. Start to look at them and start to look at, they will have, like, they call it different names. Each site calls it slightly different. Some will call it work for us. Some will say careers. Some will say jobs. And just look for that on their site and start to look at what do they have available. Because I do find that even though that the websites like, Indeed, CV Library, Deco, Blue Arrow, a couple other ones I can put down. Hayes is another one. Hayes is another one I can think of. Blue Arrow, not Blue Arrow, but Reed, I do find used to be good, but they, I think, have kind of gone the way of kind of being more of a kind of like a job board, at least when I look at it. And hey, Lewis and LP and Jessica, good to see you all. And what they wind up being is just kind of like I don't like Reed, and I totally agree with you, Nath. It is not a really good site. And Reed, I don't, I agree with you. Reed isn't the best. No, I don't use Total Jobs. I've been burnt one too many times with Total Jobs. I do find with Total Jobs, at least from speaking strictly from my own experience with Total Jobs, it's I think a lot of the jobs, in my opinion, don't exist. I think a lot of them have been kind of rehashed, meaning that these were jobs that existed at one time, but now organizations are using them as a way to say, hey, look, we have these jobs, but not really. All they're trying to do is get you to send your CV. And I think with Total Jobs too, what I find is that they don't, I think a lot of them are very much, how should I say, outdated. And so I don't waste my time or energy with Total Jobs. And so I don't waste my time with them. I don't think Total Jobs are worth it at all, and so I won't waste my time with them. And I don't recommend them because I don't think they're worth the energy or effort. I think you'll just wind up, instead of using it as a way, instead of finding a job and using your time efficiently, I think Total Jobs, it just sucks your time, sucks your soul, and leaves you feeling defeated afterwards because you'll never hear anything from anyone. And so that's from my own experience with Total Jobs. So I wouldn't personally recommend it to you. Hey, Matt, good to see you. And Maddie, good to see you. So I wouldn't really recommend to you those sites. So no. So I think if you are really looking, oh well, thank you for the heart, me Nath. Thank you. I think if you're really looking, depending on what you're looking for, the type of job, if you're kind of looking trades, I think looking at the business itself, or looking on like CV Library at Deco Blue Arrow, and if you do a bit of a search and type in, for example, like, you know, gas engineering jobs or plumber jobs, um, you will find you can get a lot of agencies that will come up, and you can start to kind of wade through them and see, hey, Ahmed, good to see you. Um, and you'll start to see these jobs kind of pop up in agencies. So you will see them, and a lot of things with agencies, they will come and go, a lot of them. And so it's, what may be around for, you know, like for, right now, you may come back in 6 months, or you're, yeah, so yeah, no, I totally understand if you don't want the gas side. You can do like the plumbing end, and just say for you, no, I can understand it. But what I'm just trying to say is, depending on what you're looking for, really depends on the site. If you're looking kind of more at the office end of things, more at the professional end, it's LinkedIn. If you're looking kind of entry level, kind of salesy, trade, CV library is also a good one. Indeed is one of these that I found that CC, um, where you get, for lack of a better word, less jerked around on Indeed. Indeed tends to be, you can search by age of job, and you do find, and also to what I always will say to people is, if you're applying for jobs, hey Matt, good to see you. If you are applying for jobs, you really want to look for the more recent jobs, within the last 2 weeks. And the reason for that is there's a couple of reasons. One is, the sooner you apply, the better, because there's about 2.3 applicants for every job, meaning that the competition for jobs are fierce. Once there's enough applicants, they may close it early, so you want to make sure you get in. The other thing you want to do is a lot of times, if you do apply early and you're one of the first applicants, it may mean that you're better positioned, so your application may be seen sooner. Now, with that caveat said, what you also need to be very conscious of is making sure, even though if you're applying early and stuff, what you really need to do is ensure you are matching the job spec. You need to be matching that job spec, that job description, because if you're not, and you're only probably meeting 70 or 80% of it, chances are you're not going to get that interview, because jobs can be very selective. And there is, right now, about 73% of employers are saying that they can't find the right candidate. That's because they're struggling to find the right applicant, because they're holding off, they're waiting for the right job, and they're paying more year on year compared to last year. There's about 6% more than last year, but they're being more selective, because a lot of them want to get the right candidate, get the right fit, so they don't have to go out again 6 months, a year, and find someone again. Hey John and Mr. Icky, it's good, and Matt, good to see you all. So if you do like the feed, please please share, please follow. And if you do feel inclined, but you don't have to, please send gifts, because it does help me to know what people like. It helps me to kind of direct the flow of the conversation, and helps me to plan my content. So yeah, so as we kind of talk about here, you know, and as we kind of talk about this, it is where you're really looking for is, making that job application. Where do you look? It is, one of the things. And one of the things, if you do know and you're able to do, is do a bit of networking. If you know people who do hire, if you know where jobs are, always ask. There's nothing wrong with sending a quick email to an organization to say to them, are you hiring? Or where do I find your available jobs? Or, you can always send a speculative CV. But again, if you do send something off, networking. There's a couple ways you can network. You can do it on LinkedIn. You can do it on LinkedIn by following groups. You can do it by following groups, being part of a group on LinkedIn. You can, start to ask friends, use your friend network, friends that you have, and asking them. There's networking events, business networking events you can attend, where you can talk about, what you're looking for. There's, networking events that you can attend, and you can look for those online. You can also, talk about if you've had good relationships with previous employers. Again, you can start to, contact previous employers, see if they're hiring, what are they looking for, do they have anything that's coming up. It's really just looking around you, and seeing what, who's available. If you're, let's say, for example, in sales, you come across different organizations, different businesses, and you make contacts with them. And depending on what your contract states with your employer when you leave, you may be able to reach out to them and, say, can I, are you hiring? Are you, am I able to join your organization? This is what I have. Again, it's using what's available to you, to people you know. And networking is very much, it's really up to you and how do you do it. And for me, with my networks, because I work in contract management, I do keep in contact with a lot of agencies and kind of, keeping them abreast of my, availability in contracts. So again, it is developing a network, using that as a communication and keeping them up on, your availability, your interests, when, see if they have anything available. So what are my thoughts on apprenticeships? So I have mixed feelings on apprenticeships. I'm not I've worked with apprenticeships, and I've, actually done a bit of done some public speaking on apprenticeships. I think apprenticeships offer a alternative route to university. I think that apprenticeships offer an alternative through working and kind of getting the experience. But I think it does also offer, some, like I say, it does offer a way to get the experience and get job experience without having to spend thousands on university. The problem is, however, I feel with apprenticeships, especially, like at the level 2 and level 3, is that they can be very restrictive, and meaning that if you decide, let's say you want to work as an office administrator. Okay, so you may be kind of trained. You may be trained to kind of support that organization, and maybe you may get enough skills to kind of work in that kind of sector. But if you want to move out of that and do something else, you don't always get the transferable skills to do it. Also, too, with apprenticeships, you are not guaranteed a job afterwards. So you may go through the apprenticeship and find, guess what? There's nothing available for you afterwards. So it may be, it may be something that, if you had your heart set on, if you get a good apprenticeship with a good organization, and that you do it, you go through, you complete it, and find out, like, guess what? There's nothing available for you. It can be really soul destroying type of an experience. I think for myself, it really, I think, for me, I tend to be a bit more traditional. I think that, like, with going to college and going to university, I think they give you a bit more in the way of transferable skills, and you do learn a lot more in the way of problem solving, creative thinking, ability to research. You learn more about communication, and you learn a lot more, I think, than you would pick up in an apprenticeship. I think apprenticeships are good for giving you kind of the hardcore skills. So if you're doing IT, you learn kind of like the programming, the coding, cybersecurity, whatever you may be doing. But at the end, I think you do lose some of the more softer skills that really help to promote you, help you get into a job, and help you to move between sectors. And I think you do miss out on that. And also, too, I do know, if I remember my stats correctly, there's a lot more opting for kind of the more traditional routes like university than apprenticeships. And I do have to always question, hey, Selma and Chloe, the moving to, if you're doing it in the small businesses, like right now with the funding for 50,000 apprenticeship jobs for small businesses for those under 25, no cost, I do have to really question if that is the best route. Because I think when you work for very small organizations, I think you do miss out on things, and I think that the environment is a lot different when you're working in a very small organization. It is not, how do I describe it? It's not well developed in the way of systems, and you may have people who do multiple roles or have a broader remit because the organization is small. And I think, when you do try to go into something larger, I think you do kind of have to struggle with it. So for me, I have so to kind of summarize, what are my thoughts on apprenticeships? I have kind of a mixed bag approach on them. I think they can be good, and I think it solves a very specific type of issue, and it provides an option for a very specific type of individual. But I don't necessarily feel it is the solution for everyone. I think that, it, in my opinion, a lot really depends on the apprenticeship and also the organization that is offering it. Um, and I don't think, hey Ben, thank you for the follow. I don't believe, apprenticeship is right for everyone. And so I think I think it just needs to be kind of thought out more. I think it does offer a solution for some, but not for all. Um, so, um, so for me, it's a mixed bag. But it's a good question. Um, so, I don't quite know what you're asking, Waffles. What are my thoughts on? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I see now the question. Okay. It's up to you. I think, again, I think with, ambulance service, it's a good job as a medic. Um, but also to, if you want to go, thank you, Waffles, for the follow. Um, but if you're looking for, to go to the Navy, I think Navy offers a lot of opportunities for you. Um, and it may be a situation where they offer you may have more opportunities in the way of developing your medic skills, um, also in the way of leadership, managing, if especially if you're really kind of looking to develop along those ways, the Navy may be able to offer you more in what you could get in the ambulance service. Um, and you may be able to get the training and stuff, at no cost, of course, in the Navy, versus where you may have to either pay or wait to get the training in the civilian corps as a ambulance um, in the ambulance service. So I would have to say it's really you need to, I think, define for yourself. I think the first question is what is it that you're hoping to get from joining the Navy? What is it that what are your goals? And also, understand, about the ambulance service and kind of any potential progression for you in that, and make that kind of decision from it. So I think you really just need to really explore, what are your goals? What is it that you're hoping to achieve? And where do you think, is the best fit for you? I think, you know, at the end of the day, my guts, I always would say, for me, I tend to be very kind of, as a career developer, tend to be more kind of on the side of the military, because they do a lot in way of personal development, and you do get a lot of transferable skills um, afterwards. But I think what really needs to happen after you come out is really, yes, I think you can get the training, the fitness, and new experiences and friends for life. I think you can do that also with the medic end of things. But I think what you're probably driving at, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is that the military is more structured, and that you have this kind of hierarchy, this very kind of structure, and the way you have a bit more of a vision of where you're heading to. Whereas, kind of, if you stay in the ambulance service, it may be a less diffuse, and a lot of kind of like the training, the fitness, the new experiences, which may be a bit less in the ambulance service. Um, is it's more up to you, and instead of kind of being in this very kind of structured way. And so it's up to you to decide and to ask and to take it on. Um, asking for promotion, applying for promotions, having to kind of maybe make that decision. Do you stay on your current route or do you look elsewhere? And so, um, um, so I think it's really, yeah, and I think it's, yeah, and I think that's one of the things is, yep, and I think when you come back, from the military, going back into the ambulance, you probably would be, at working at a higher level. I would expect that you would be trained in as a medic, at least probably coming back as a paramedic, if not as something else, as like a nurse or some other type of medic, depending on the way you go. If you went like physical therapy or OT or anything that developed you along those ways, you know, I think you would have that, and you would also probably have a lot for life. Um, so yeah, so I think take a look, um, and really think about it, and have like I said, do a bit of exploring. Um, it definitely would boost you up, and I think and I think too, it is with the Navy, they're able to do the training, and whereas the ambulance service may be limited by budget and funding issues, so you may wind up being held back because the funding is not there to train you up, whereas the military, and Navy, more likely than not, will have that ability. So yeah, I think I think for you is really to think about what is it that you want. Are you prepared to make that type of commitment? And and really, I would say start to explore the Navy and make that decision for yourself. But for me, like I say, I do have a little bit of a bias because I do think military does offer a lot, in the way of training and development, and personal skills and soft skills that you're able to use. And so I think it's always worth, considering if you are able to get past the medical and security end of things. So yes. So any other questions before I do a bit of wrap up? Yep. And totally. Um, um, again, just want to, I would say it's obvious you haven't watched any of my videos, so I would just say, it is a bit of an offensive question. Um, hey, no problem. Good. So good luck. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to stop right now and end, and I will kind of decide if I will be back. Like I said, kind of coming back from asthma flare up, so I may be back tomorrow, or I will probably take a day or two off and just kind of recoup, and um, probably be back towards the end of the week, like uh, it is. Yeah, I'm in the UK, North Yorkshire. I take offense, Waffles, to those types of questions because it is it is a very stereotypical, it is a very stereotyping type of question, um, based on, and for lack of a better word, ignorance, and not taking the time to read through and watch videos, my other content and stuff, and just um, to ask questions. And so it just shows that it comes from more of a position of ignorance, than taking any time to learn about what I do. Hey, no problem. No problem at all, Nate. Hope to see you back. Thank you, everyone.